visited the Thunder last night after beating them by 27 points on Sunday. The rematch could clinch the Lakers a playoff spot. So let's pick it up with 9 minutes left in the third quarter, Monica. Lakers down 84-77. That's LeBron burying the three.
Now, mind you, the Lakers beat the Thunder pretty badly in the first game of this back-to-back, well, not back-to-back, of this little mini-series, you'll call it.
That was Luka from the logo getting the three to fall, put the Lakers up by 2. 2 minutes left in the third. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with a step-back three, just what we've become used to from him. Under 8 minutes to go in the fourth. Here's where the game kind of turned. Lakers down by a point. Doncic sinks the floater for the lead, but watch what happens after this. He turns around, says some words in the direction of the ref, and he gets a technical. It's his second technical of the night. He can't believe it. He says he was talking to a fan. Look at it again. Like he's barking. The referee thought he was talking to him, tees him up, throws him out of the game. His pleas fall on deaf ears, and then the Lakers kind of fell apart after that. Just over 6 minutes to play in the fourth quarter. Thunder now leading 114-112. Gilgeous-Alexander sinks one from deep, putting the Thunder up by 5. Just over 3 minutes remaining in regulation. Now Thunder up 124-115. Gilgeous-Alexander gets another one to go. He had 42 points. Typical, what, Tuesday night for him?
Yeah, man, his 13th 40-point game of the season.
Here's Luka.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it that happened, but, you know, I never got a fan ejected, never. But if he's going to talk, I'm going to talk back like always. So that had nothing to do with the ref, so I didn't really understand. I mean, it was tough. I mean, we were right there. I think we fought the whole game. You know, we were down 8 at halftime. We came back in the third quarter. We were fighting, man. So it was tough to see that with this kind of situation that happened. And, you know, that's on me too, so I can't let my team down like that.
All right, so joined again by Monica McNutt and Brian Windhorst. Windy, look, I mean, I feel like he kind of encapsulated it there in his comments. Like, it probably wasn't a fair ejection, but his reputation precedes him, no?
Excuse me, sir, I was not cursing you, and I was cursing out this gentleman over here. Please accept my apologies. Yes, very clearly it seems that the official mistook Luka's cursing or the courtside fan, which he does routinely, for being directed at him, and it was probably an unjust technical foul. The problem is he wasn't ejected just because of that. He was ejected because he previously got a technical for profanely cursing at this exact same official. And the reason that the officials assumed that he was cursing him out is because Luka curses out officials almost on a nightly basis. So, yes, and this, by the way, the game, as you mentioned, went totally sideways for the Lakers after this. Probably materially impacted the outcome of the game. And when that happens on what seems to be a misunderstanding, it's extremely frustrating. But Luka heavily contributes to allowing this to happen by his behavior over the course of the last decade. He continues to have problems with this sort of stuff and continues to do the same thing. So, you know, the Lakers are every right to be upset about this, but Luka bears a lot of this responsibility. That's just the truth.
To that end, Wendy, it was good to hear Luka at least say the right thing. That was the right step in terms of acknowledging that he has to be better for his teammates. Look, every game matters. It's do or die, in a sense, for the Lakers as far as playing for their standing right now. I continue to believe that there's opportunity for Luka to grow. We've talked about his defensive effort. Now we're talking about this sort of antics of the arc of his career. He's in a new position, in a new uniform, alongside teammates and a head coach that wants to hold him accountable. Not that that's not what happened in Dallas, but he clearly has an opportunity to continue to be better because, as he said, he cannot continue to let his teammates down. So I'm going to hope that this is a learning opportunity. I know that he's had plenty over the arc of his career, but each game presents a new opportunity.
Well, good thing is tonight's game's in Dallas, so I'm sure there won't be any kind of extra juice or emotion behind that. I want to get to the shocking news from the NBA yesterday. This happened before the games were played last night. The Denver Nuggets fired head coach Michael Malone and general manager Calvin Booth. Move comes with Denver sitting in fourth place in the West with just 3 games left in the regular season. Malone's firing also comes just 2 years after he led the team to an NBA title. Assistant David Adelman will take over as the team's interim head coach. And this was obviously met with some shock around the league and among all of us who follow it. I wanted to bring Lewis and Swagoo into the conversation now. But before we get to them, I want to start with Wendy. Wendy, as a reporter, I'm trained like the first question can almost always be why. Why did this happen?
Well, Josh Kroenke, the team's governor, didn't take questions from media yesterday, so we have to take from his statement and his comments to team media. What he said was winning can mask bigger problems, and my interpretation of that is that he did not want the Nuggets to win some games here and then mask the problem. He had made the decision to fire Michael Malone, and he didn't want a hot playoff run to cover that up, and so he made this move now. That is extremely unorthodox, but I will point that the Kroenke family, his father Stan and Josh, own and operate the Los Angeles Rams, Arsenal, one of the biggest teams in all of Europe in soccer, the Colorado Avalanche, and the Denver Nuggets, all of whom have won championships in the last decade. And the Kroenkes don't fire coaches. You go look at all of those teams, they don't make coaching changes. So when the Kroenkes decide to fire a coach, it is not flippant. It is not like some other teams that will have 3 coaches in 3 years or 4 and 5 or whatever. So this was a decision that was taken with a lot of thought and care. The timing of it, however, leaves Michael Malone to feel aggrieved because he's a 10-year coach, the winningest coach in the history of the organization, wins them a championship 2 years ago. Obviously, that can be perceived as disrespectful, and that is a reasonable position for him to take. But I do think the Nuggets are wagering that this coaching change increases their chances of having a short-term bounce and clears the way for there to be a coaching change that they wanted to make, that they were afraid they couldn't if the team had sort of fake success the way Josh Kroenke kind of implied it might be.
Lewis, you played in the NFL, you worked in front offices. I mean, when you see a move like this, what's your reaction?
I mean, what does fake success mean? What is that? I mean, Wendy, I'm not saying that to kind of like poke a hole in what you're saying. I'm saying this. Look, owners own. That's why they're called owners. They can do whatever they want whenever they want. They don't have to justify it to anybody. Whenever owners hide behind the fact that they feel as though, well, like in this case, right, the way you lay it out, like maybe they wanted to do this now just in case the team got hot, and then maybe they would experience some blowback if they did it then after the team got hot and started looking good as they kind of moved on into the playoffs. Look, we saw, what was it, Marty Schottenheimer got fired after going, I believe it was like 14-2 with the San Diego Chargers one year. After that, now I believe they lost in the playoffs early on in that year and they had a good season. But owners can do ultimately what they want to do. This to me kind of reeks of it being very personal. At some point in time and somewhere, somehow, this isn't an argument about his competency. This is an argument about maybe fit at this point in time. Like whether or not he doesn't fit with the general manager, him and the general manager don't get along, the owner and the coach don't get along. Is it something between the coach and the star player? Because this doesn't seem like a competency argument. And if it's not that, and you're in the middle of a season, or rather at the end of a season, you're heading into the playoffs, just let him finish it out. I don't care how deep they go. If it's something then you feel is not tenable and you feel like you have to end it, then fire him. You're the owner. You can do what you want to do. But to say that you feel pressure that you couldn't do it if they got hot, that just doesn't kind of like sit well with me.
Swagoo, the playoffs start next week. The Nuggets are going to be in them, and they're 2 years removed from a championship. If you're a player in a locker room and this happens at this point in the season, like what does that do for team morale?
I mean, in the NFL it's different, but when you look at the NBA, I just cannot imagine that this wasn't Jamal Murray or Nikola Jokic situation, understanding. Or maybe they were disgruntled with Malone and the way he did things. And that's just an opinion. I'm not a reporter, but when you look at this situation, something about the relationship between ownership and Malone, or the players and Malone, which in the NBA, over the years, and Monica and Wendy knows this as well as anybody because they do a phenomenal job covering the game, is that star players got a lot of say in what happens in organizations. They also know a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes. It doesn't feel like a basketball on the court decision. It feels like something went awry, either between these star players and the way this team was coached relationship-wise, because you can't point to success in winning. This team has been very successful. They won. So it has to be something that tailors into the relationship, or ownership and the relationship between Malone as well. So that's what it looks like to me. And when you think about sports in this context, based on what Lou just said, when you have a winning organization, when you are 2 years off of an NBA championship, when you have the best player in the NBA on your team, and the coach get fired for having success, it means either your star players were disgruntled or the front office was disgruntled. And I can't wait to find out which one it was.
So I don't know if we will get an answer, but we all are certainly tuned in. The one thing I will say just from this season is I have had a chance to be in a couple of different press conferences where Michael Malone called out his team for their competition level, right? And yeah, teams have bad games, not a huge deal. But this year, I think those types of conversations about this group have been almost thematic. There's some head-scratching losses for the Denver Nuggets. And so I think when you have to start saying that almost consistently, you wonder if the voice is not registering in the locker room in the way it once was. Now, I have compassion in the sense that sometimes when you're the guy to get the team to the mountaintop, you have said everything you can say. And these are still millionaire athletes. Of course they want to compete and they want to win at a high level, but this idea that they won a championship and now things are starting to go a little bit of a separate way, I can hold space for. Now, the timing, again, to me is curious, and the timing to me says it is about keeping our stars happy and knowing that we want the best for them, whether they said it's time to move on from Michael Malone or not. Ownership is choosing these players for sure over their longest tenure coach.
Wendy, real quick, what does this move tell you about the situation with Jokic and the Denver Nuggets players going forward?
I have known Michael Malone for 20 years. He has run hot every day that I have known him. He has cursed out people probably almost every single one of those days. He routinely calls rage timeouts. He routinely screams at his players. That is the coach he is. I don't think that the way he operated 3 years ago or 6 years ago is any different than he operates today. There may be some little variance in it. After 10 years, does that get tiresome? Without question. And if that's the explanation, after 10 years we've had enough, obviously. When it comes to Jokic, Jokic was clearly aware of this before it happened. He did not learn this from Shams Charania. If Jokic had heard about this and he took the photos off the wall and threw them across the room and said, hell no, would Michael Malone have been fired? I'm sure not. That doesn't mean that Jokic asked for this or whatever. I think that's the way Jokic operates with the team. Having said that, this is a superstar player in his prime who now doesn't have a coach, doesn't have a general manager, and is heading for a disappointing season. I don't care who you are. If you're an organization, that is a worrisome situation. And they've got to deal with this season, and then they've got to fix this. Otherwise, they're going to have to worry about their relationship with their superstar player.
Fascinating situation in Denver. Again, with the playoffs starting next week, they'll have a lot of questions to answer regardless of when their season does end. When we come back, more NBA. The Knicks